Here we are. I think we're good. All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Shay. I actually have the things switched, so let me, because it looks like Milosh is actually Rustin, and you're not. We're gonna do
Sure, I can pull it off.
I feel like you could. You have a better beard.
Yeah, you got me.
So my name's
Wow,
Shay.
that's
I
me.
am an admin for the Rainbow Six Siege page. I also have Rustin here with me, and MiloshTheMedic. He's
Hello.
a caster for the Siege Pro League, and we're very excited. Yay! Thanks for
Oh
joining
damn!
us.
It's a Christmas miracle. I would have thought.
Is it? Well, so I always start off every interview the same way. And where do you get MiloshTheMedic? What's that name from? Are you like a doc main?
No, it happened way before
Overwatch?
all of this. No,
Okay.
this comes from Battlefield Bad Company 2.
Okay.
Oh, love
Long
it.
time ago.
Already.
Great game. It's a great game. And for people that are in, they probably know the Russian Badger, right? So, he's, funny content creator. Back in the day in Battlefield Bad Company 2, he used to play on PS3. And he invented and coined the name Milosh the Red Beret Medic, because on the Russian side in Bad Company 2, there were 4 classes. One of them was a medic, and the medic had an LMG. I actually later on took a picture with that very same PKM LMG that he was using. But he coined the term Milosh the Red Beret Medic because if you look at the face, he literally looks like someone who's called Milosh. It was the debate between Milosh or Ivan. And he just got called Milosh at the end. And I'm like, I need an online name. I come from a Middle Eastern country where internet was not great. So playing online was not really that big of an option. So most of the time, if we're playing on LAN back home. So I didn't need an online name. But when I later on moved to Europe to study, like, okay, I gotta get a online name. And there you go. That's where I got it.
Interesting. So is it Milosh? Is it Milosh or Milosh? Does it matter?
MiloshTheMedic.
Milosh. Okay. Is
It's
that like a common name?
It is a common name for
Never.
especially Serbs, Poles in Serbia. I don't know exactly how it's pronounced, but I know in Poland because I live in Poland right now. It basically, you can say it Miłosz. It's Miłosz. So the L is actually a W, so you say Miłosz, and Miłosz with like a double sh at the end means love.
Huh.
Oh.
Yeah, I've been learning a bit of Polish.
That's so cool.
In Serbian, however, apparently it means something like the just. Which, fair enough. All right.
The just.
I don't want to say it's very descriptive, but it kind of is.
Interesting. So I should be ashamed because I am Polish. My grandfather's like off the boat, Obremski, like spoke Polish. I know nothing. All I know is how to eat the food, which is amazing.
Oh, yes.
That's about all I know. But I'm very, very Polish. So I have a funny story about that. So I'm half Polish, half Irish. And growing up, all of the good things that we did that's the Polish side. And then when we did bad things, he's like, there's that Irish side coming out. And so he used to always tell us like how smart we were, and don't believe people who tell you that you're stupid because you're Polish and all this other stuff, right? And the one thing that he ever said bad to me about being Polish, he was like, Shay, you're the perfect woman. And I'm like, all right, Grandpa, why? He was kind of a kidder. I was like, why? And he was like, you're Polish and Irish, so you can drink and you're stupid.
But which is which? Because Poles drink a lot.
That's true, but the Irish are known for being drunks too. So it's a give and take here. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's
Anyways,
true.
The Poles are like the Eastern European Irish.
Is that interesting?
I like it.
But blonde, not redheaded. So I hear there's a lot of blondes in Poland. So speaking of how to pronounce things, we have some education to do for this group.
All right.
And is it Kayed? I'm totally going to say this wrong.
So there's an easy way and an original way to say it. So you either say Kayed, which is fine. Kayed is fine.
Never going to be able to say that.
And then if you want to say it 100% how you should be saying it, you say qa'id with like strong on the K from the back of your throat. Qa'id. That's how you should
way
be
too
saying it
American for
correctly.
that.
Yeah, that's actually pretty darn good.
God, I can't.
Cut.
Yes.
See, I'm from Texas, so we say Kaed.
I think I hear Cade a lot.
Am I what?
I hear Cade a lot. Like everybody's like, "Oh, it's Cade."
Yeah.
I've
Yeah,
had
it's-
arguments, and I'm like, I've literally sent them to your Twitter page, and I was like, "Here," like
You know,
breaking it down.
when I was in Rio like a month ago, there was the reveal panel, and Justin from UB, who was hosting the reveal panel, talked to me beforehand on how to pronounce the name correctly, and he's like, "All right, I'm gonna try my best," and actually, it did pretty darn well. So
All right.
it's Kate in promotional material, which is weird because like a lot of people that work at UB Montreal and a lot of the designers and everything are Arab or have some sort of Arab blood in them, which means maybe they should have known about this, but I don't know. Maybe it's a higher up decision or whatever. Anyways, it's Qa'ed minimum Qa'ed if you want to say it right.
Can I say Kaed?
That's all right.
You'll accept it. You won't yell at me.
Oh,
if you...
sorry.
Okay.
It's all right.
That's all I need. That's all I need. All right. So Chris has asked a really good question, and this kind of will segue us into the next conversation. So you've been pro league casting for a little while now. How long have you been on the scene for? I know you did Challenger League before this because I remember hearing you in Challenger League. And then all of a sudden you busted on the scene in this cosplay that was like amazing. And I just remember being like, who's this dude? I was very skeptical because you're used to seeing, your the regular people that are on there all the time, and Taro and Kix, and even when Kix came on, we were like, who's this long-haired dude? Like, what's up with this? So when you came on, I was sort of like, all right, I'm skeptical, prove yourself, and you were so excited when things happened. You just you get super stoked, and the energy's so different when you cast, and I really enjoyed that. So I was like, all right, accepted. You're accepted into our family. You can come in now. So how did that all start?
I mean, first, thank you. Number two, I started how many? In baby months, like 26 months ago, almost.
Baby months.
Yeah, because I started end of 2016.
Okay.
I got into Siege like September of 2016. I was in a Paris Games Week, and I was working in an event there because I've been casting in general for 6 years now.
Oh wow!
So it's not like I don't know too many things. But I went to Paris Games Week, and the French casters, Skok and later on Furious, were casting the French Nationals, which in terms of European Pro League is an extremely important tournament for how things shape up in Pro League. It's like US Nationals. How important is it for NA Pro League? It probably is extremely important because all the teams are playing in there.
Right.
But I watched the tournament there on my breaks, and I'm like, wow, this is pretty sweet. I really, really enjoyed this. I had played the game in beta. I played it, at the start a bit, but it was completely different at that point.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm like, I really want to get into it. And I contacted my old caster friends who are the Brazilian casters for Rainbow Six. And I had known them before because before Rainbow Six, we all used to cast Battlefield 4 and Battlefield 3 before that. So, I contact them and they're like, okay, we got a couple tournaments here in Brazil. If you want to cast them, we provide you with everything you need. And they did. And so I started doing that. And very quickly, there's a lot of people that got interested in it. Ubisoft then reached out to me before the first Six Invitational to do the official B stream for the whole tournament, or at least the qualifiers for it, which is back then was actually really important because there wasn't really anyone that was doing anything in terms of this level of content outside of Pro League itself. And then Panky went away from Pro League and he went to work for he went away. He went to work for PUBG for a bit and then went back to his own. But that's when they asked me, hey, would you like to come on? That was year 2 season 1 finals. They're like, hey, would you like to come on and we'll see how things work. And I'm like, yo, Panky's away. If I come in and do a good job, they'll probably be offering me the job, like for full-time Pro League. And that's exactly what happened. Unfortunately, there were some delays due to like visas and work permits and whatever, because all that stuff, like paperwork and stuff. So I couldn't start, and that's how Intero got his foot in the door. He's obviously
He
very good.
snuck in
Parker,
there.
yeah, honestly, like when I first heard Parker as like a VOD, I'm like, oh, holy shit, this is not bad for someone actually doing things just at home. And then when he came in, I gave him a few pointers, and a couple shows later, I'm like, I just told everybody, you hire him on the spot. This guy knows what he's doing, because I was kind of doing some consulting around Pro League at that point, even though I couldn't work officially as a broadcaster. But then it just went on and on and on, and I started officially as a Pro League caster for the online stuff, including like everything else. Almost a year ago, I moved like January 6th, 2018 to Poland, and it just started from there. The Maestro thing was actually a pretty funny one, because
That was
everybody
cool.
leaked Maestro. Everybody leaked Maestro, right?
Reddit.
Yeah, it was just all over the place the instant, like 3 weeks before the event, right? So like,
It was awful.
even more actually. This is like a month and a half before. I'm like, whoa, okay, this is odd. Now I had already played Maestro in playtesting, but I'd never really seen the similarities until quite a few people started pointing it out. I'm like, you know what? Let's do it. And it was a fun time, to say the least.
But you're very good, Maestro. I'll give you that. Like, you look just like him.
I also play Maestro pretty well in games, so what do I know?
Maestro
It's-
pisses me off. He's my, and we'll get to that. We'll get to all of that.
Like,
We'll get to
he's
it.
a good trolley character.
It's
He's- He does so many things, but like to the question of how much homework is needed,
yes, that was where I was going with this.
Yeah. a lot. It's like, okay, we can basically go in, and there's something called the casting autopilot, which means you go in and just cast, and you can close your eyes and just cast. Honestly, it can get pretty easy at times, but you can feel, at least we can, when it's like,
Prepared versus un.
yes, but when it's prepared, so many things, you can talk about so many things. So for me, I was been watching a lot of VODs, doing them on my own time, and I'm like, maybe I'll stream me reviewing VODs and like seeing specific strategies and analyzing them and everything. And it's like, a best of 3 series could take like 5 or 6 hours to analyze on stream. If I were doing it on my own, it would take me at least 3 to 4 hours. And that's one game that I have to select out of everything, because I had already watched it and I know this is interesting. So I have to go through it again. That takes another 3 hours, other than having watched the tournament before. So the preparation for Rio, for example, and we're going to do the same before Six Invitational, it took me 3 weeks to go through Pro League VODs, all Pro League VODs, and then re-review some of the important games, to just be able to be 100% ready for Rio, no matter who throws it at me.
And what are you looking for exactly?
I'm like, okay, first of all, you go through regional games. So you look at Pro League and like, okay, regional online games. And online is completely different than playing on land for Siege. For anyone that has never tried it, if you have enough friends or whatever to actually have like a LAN party in Siege, try it. It's a completely different game. Everything actually hits, like hit registration works, all of that stuff. It's great. It really is great. But like, you watch, for example, NA. You see how certain teams do certain strategies on certain maps and on certain sites. Like, yeah, it can get pretty detailed. You either write them down, or at least you see what's going on.
Yeah.
You put them in one corner, and then you go and then look at their game against an international team from EU or APAC or whatever, and see what they did against them on Coastline. For example, Coastline. I just have this in my mind right now. Like, I was reviewing Rogue VODs before going to Rio. I'm like, okay, gotta go to Coastline. I will check out Rogue playing against SK Gaming, now Dark Zero, in the final game before Rogue qualified to Rio. So it was a really good game. It was absolutely fantastic. And then you could see everything, all the strategies that were going on, because both teams are well known for a lot of very deep strategical gameplay. And I'm like, okay, I want to compare and contrast it to the opponent that Rogue will eventually play in Rio, even though it's kind of an old game at this point from Atlantic City finals. They played against Norengo, which is why everybody was ready for the rematch. So I rewatched it, and then you could see how Rogue was playing differently and how their strategies were on those sites, and how Norengo was able to beat them, and well, now beat them again in Rio on that very specific map. So you could see some of the patterns evolving.
Yeah.
It's like it really is the scientific method. You just go in and you're like, okay, the process of elimination, when they play these teams and these sort of strategies against them, then they do this or they don't do this. Usually they reinforce things this way. Well, now they're not doing it because there's this threat or this operator's banned. Like, oh, they're going to play Penthouse because I'm repeating on Coastline because I really like the map. They're going to play Penthouse because Mira is not banned, which makes it a lot easier to play. The site just becomes doable on a professional level by the defenders. It's just there's these tiny things, and then you then go on and see that these patterns repeat for a lot of teams in a lot of regions. But there's always something a bit different, like, oh, a Maestro camera was placed in here instead of this place. And then you load up the game and you're like, whoa, okay, so this is a different angle. Here's how to deal with it. And then you end up spending 10 hours of your day going through VODs and going through specific strategies because you're like, if I know this, I need to spread this to the public, either through Pro League or through videos or whatever, because there's a lot of things involved in CC. It's just extremely complicated game. And during a cast, I can't fault any caster for not being able to dig super deep into a strategy because there's so many variables every single time in the game.
Well, even like the stats you guys come up with, you're like, well, they won, 37.8% of the time on this. Like, who has the time to do that?
CCG, actually, which
Okay,
I'd like to extend a thank you to them because, yeah, CCG, they're like multiple people and they actually count everything by hand because an API does not exist where it can give you detailed statistics like that for Siege, and they are correct pretty much all the time.
Yeah.
So, kudos to them for doing that. But they give you the information. But here's the thing: that's the difference between someone that just looks at the statistics and then someone who analyzes them. Because looking at numbers is one thing, understanding what those numbers mean, that's a different one. And that's why you not only have to look at the numbers, but you also have to go back and watch the matches to see why those numbers ended up happening that way.
Right. Or who they were playing against.
Yes, a specific team, a specific map, all of that factors in. Unfortunately, the numbers won't show you the whole truth, but they will guide you in your quest to find the real thing that's going on.
I've always been curious. Well, I've been curious recently because they've changed how the format of Pro League is with the 5 defense, 5 attack, and the swap. So I'm wondering how that affects those numbers because you really learn if I played 5 defense, I would really know how their attacking strategies were, or you kind of learn that that game a much easier, I think.
Haha. But here's the way of doing things as well. So not only, first of all, they only played one tournament with the new format. The new format has 6 rounds on each side instead of 5. They increased the total round count because it ended up with a lot of teams having a huge advantage on one side. And then once you switch to the other, there wasn't really a lot of breathing room for the other, their opponents to actually try and come back. And games would end up in a tie a bit too often. So adding an extra round here and there, total of 2, means that for Pro League best of 1 6 months thing, it pans out in a way where there's not as many ties as the previous season. It's a test. But there's only one tournament played with that new format, and that was DreamHack. And
how'd that
US
go?
Nationals, it went actually really, really well. And offline, you can't tie. These are all best of 3 series, but it showed that the better team is going to win. There's a certain point, however, where adding too many rounds is going to be exhausting and it's going to be, deadly. But still, it's only one tournament. For example, US Nationals that played last weekend, that was played with the old format because that's how the qualifiers started. And I was playing 5 rounds attack, 5 rounds defense.
Right.
And when you play those 5 rounds, you as a viewer, for example, end up being much more comfortable watching the game because you're like, okay, they're just gonna be on defense until halftime. It makes sense, right?
As a newer viewer, I think it was easier. So if you're somebody who's somewhat
Yeah.
new to at least watching Pro League, or even like if you're new to the game, it was easier to watch. But I think for
Mhm.
somebody who's actually seasoned in the game, I've been playing since beta. I've been an avid player since. I mean, even Vegas. I was a big Vegas player back in the day.
Mhm.
When you're used to a certain gameplay style, it's somewhat like boring almost to watch because it's just the same shit over and over again. You know what they're gonna do. You know how they're
Aha.
gonna.
And that's the change. That's the change. In Pro League settings, so Pro League settings are basically run by all tournaments.
Mm,
100%, all of them run the same Pro League settings. The big difference is you cannot go back to the same site that you were on before. So let's say you're playing Oregon, all right? You
but I mean, I'm
played
talking
Laundry.
attack wise. Like I know
Yeah,
that you,
attack wise, but that's the
it's you know how they're gonna hit them.
because the attack is molded by the way the defense plays.
Right.
And how is the defense molded? They're molded by the settings, which
Mhm.
means you played Laundry, for example, in Oregon. You have to play 2 other sites before being able to go back to it, which means you start with Laundry, you go for Kids Dorms, and then you go for Tower, and then you can go back. And it doesn't matter if you win it or not. It just means that for the next 3 rounds, or for these first 3 rounds, the sites will be different.
Right.
So the only way to go back to it is just the start.
Extend
You
it
cannot
out.
you cannot win it and then go back to it immediately, or like,
Yeah.
oh, you play another site and then you go back to it. That was an old way of doing things like a year or so ago.
Yeah.
Now it's different. It forces teams to have multiple sites and multiple strategies for each site because they're going to play one side all the time. So switching sites and playing different ways on them is what'll make it special, and which means that the attack will always have to be on their toes and changing things around. Not only because of that, but also certain maps require you to take parts of them before you actually execute on a site. For example, you play a coastline. Coastline is like a perfect example of it, or Villa even. Let's say Villa. And I always force this. You always have to have some sort of control of master bedroom.
100% of the time. Yeah.
So if you have control of master bedroom, even attacking
Spawn main
aviator
gate.
game room.
Always.
Actually,
Spawn
it
main
works out pretty
gate, get
darn
one
well.
on bathroom, get one on master, close it out, pinch them in.
And-
We're good.
And that's the thing. You take master bedroom and master bathroom. You either use it as a direct launching pad into a site, or you use it as a transitionary site to move on to aviator game room, or if you want to
Block off
attack
90.
if you want to attack kitchen as well, then you can bring a buck or a sledge or a jackal, and then you can
Bust
just
the whole
destroy
thing
the whole
up.
floor. Yeah, like honestly, that's the thing. These are linchpin positions within the map, within specific site attacks. But the operators you're going to bring are dependent on which site you're going to attack at the end. You don't always have to bring the same ops for every single attack. Unlike on Coastline, for example, where you can just play with whatever, and you can play with no hard breacher. And people will look at it and they're like, whoa, why is there not even a Habana, a Thermite, a Maverick? How do you play this? Well, look at Coastline. This is the job of the caster as well.
You technically on Coastline don't even need to enter the building. It's one of those ones that you can attack from outside and still win the rounds. Like technically you don't need to enter the building.
There's still a lot of long sight lines that you can play on Coastline, which allow you to do way too much damage for some people, but a lot of damage before even entering the building or being anywhere near the site. But again, it's all about adapting to how your opponents play and not just running a rigid strategy. Because back in the day, specifically Pro League Season 2, so Year 1, Season 2 for the old ways of doing things, when Team Youngtis, the French squad, which is the only French team so far to have won Pro League, played it and won the tournament, they were well known with their IGL and big shot player back then, C4, that it's all about strategies. He had books upon books upon books of how to do things. And this guy is like French special forces, ex-French special forces.
Super rigid.
Yeah, he knows his stuff, but adapting during the round was not an easy thing for them, and that play style has gone by the wayside. Now you have to adapt, which means no sight, no attack, no defense is really the same as the other, and that's the highlight of the caster's job, which is, oh, I've seen that they're going to do this. This is the difference between what they were doing before, and this is why they reinforced this wall instead of this one, like they did in the previous round. Here's the strategy that they're building around it, and the viewer is going to listen to it and be like, oh, that makes sense.
Right.
This is the difference. I should be more engaged with it. And like, it's not just the job of the players, it's also the job of the commentator who's supposed to bring you this information, right?
I've always, like, whenever I've watched Pro League, I'm like, that's why we do that. I know,
Yes.
you do it. I just never, like, you don't realize, like, the breakdown of it, like the absolute like nitty gritty of it. You just know that it's something like, I mean, I remember when it first started, there wasn't much vertical gameplay. It was a lot of just attack the site, like push in and
Yes.
kind of collapse on them. And now Pro League started pulling out, like they started having more breakable maps. There was more maps that you could just destroy the whole thing. And
Villa Coastline were literally built for that.
I think it really more started with favelas. Favelas was one of those ones where the big selling point was that you could destroy everything on it, which technically wasn't true, but kind of was. And that's when you got a lot more of that vertical gameplay.
Yes.
Just because you attack certain sites and you would actually be attacking from upstairs. And so and then people started doing that. That was when House was still in ranked. You would start attacking House upstairs because you're like, these are wooden floors, and it would create these. I think I said it before. Playing Ducks was really good back in the day about opening up these crazy sightlines and doing these like 3-wall. They had all these insane like different things that they would open up, and it started making you realize I need to go in customs and bust this whole map up. And Buck was a big game changer for that because you always had Sledge, but nobody really used him to his full potential until we kind of discovered those strategies. And then Buck came along and it was like, let's fuck shit up, So you just destroy the whole map and you realize how much more. But then as a defender, you had to be so much more aware of your surroundings because you have to be like, okay, if I stand here, they're going to get me through that drone hole or that ceiling or this is going to happen. They've even started busting up Bank. Like Bank is one of those ones where if you're in archives, they're going to attack upstairs. Put your roamers up there. You want to waste as much time as possible so that they have to come down into the site and they don't just completely attack you from up top. So I've noticed there's been like Pro League and even the casting itself has changed how a lot of the ranks have been played because you guys have taught us how to play that game, and it's very interesting.
Good. That's literally the entire point of it. It's like, oh hey, you're gonna watch the best players in the world.
Here's what they're thinking.
Here's what they're thinking. Here's how they're doing it, and you're like, huh, maybe I should do that. And you mentioned the destruction. Because of that soft destruction and the vertical play, it kind of motivated people to run more roam styles as well. We'll have like 2 anchors, 1 flex, and 2 roamers that support one another. Or like if you have an echo, you can now use 2 yokais. One of them is on site, the other one is somewhere helping the roamers and the lurkers. It just opens up so many strategies. And at some point, explaining the strategy is one thing. Being able to literally see what this player is doing and trying to copy it, that's the thing that really will intrigue everyone. That's something that casters cannot capture, unfortunately.
I'm sort of interested because I had asked, I wasn't live with him at this point, but I had asked Fabian, I was like, so when you like get people together, I mean, I'm surprised that there's not more of the playing certain operators together. Like I've always, and I know she's not a competitive player, like competitively played very much because of the high risk that she has. But Caviera, I think, is amazing with the yokai drone. If you team her up with Echo, you have one of those yokai drones on site. The other one is following. You stun them, Cav gets them, interrogation, roamers go wild. I've always thought that was such like a good combination together, and I never see those combos with them very much?
Kavita is a good operator. That's 100%. I think she was underutilized. I don't think people really understood the amount of damage that she can do on a team. But there are certain players that showed you that if you're quick on your feet, literally with Cav, you can actually do a ton of work. Interrogations just really mess up your opponent's heads. It happens in like regular casual and ranked play, right? But imagine you do that in a close competitive match, like at a tournament or whatever. Yeah, your opponent's gonna be like, "What the hell is going on?" And it's gonna affect them later on. It's gonna
Oh
have
yeah,
quite a
gets in their
few
head.
problems. Yeah, players like Vertical, Jonas, obviously Jonas, but Vertical is, in my opinion, the guy that really started things. Plays for Rogue now, and the Rogue are the U.S. Nationals champions.
Yeah,
Like
they are.
they won USN a few days ago, and Vertical was one. I believe the statistic came up where it's like the only player to have had multiple. First of all, USN was the only tournament outside of APAC to have multiple interrogations in one tournament, and Vertical had all of them for that tournament.
Well, I mean, and Fabian's um his reasoning behind not using caviar made sense, but at the same time, you sort of have to play those high risk things, because he was basically saying like there should never be a situation where in pro league there should never be a situation where a defender is an attacker is by themselves. There should never be they should be droned out. They should be with somebody. Nobody should be by themselves, period. So she should never be able to get off an interrogation. But that doesn't always happen. So
yeah.
In those moments, she's an amazing roamer, and she's really good for collapsing at the end in those sticky situations where all your roamers have been picked off. I think especially with Jackal getting a lot of gameplay recently, you see him a lot more in Pro League than I've ever seen him since he's come out.
As a big Jackal guy, yeah, I'll tell you, I'm very happy.
Right.
Now, I early on, I wanted to attribute it to like the fact that he got the buff to his Inox, able to scan at 8 meters instead of 5. But honestly, I think just like with Sledge you mentioned before, people just realized how flexible he is. Like,
yeah,
exactly.
He's got a great gun, first of all.
There's no recoil on that thing.
Exactly. Even the PDW. Like, depending on how you want to play, the PDW is still great, but the C7E functions really well.
Yeah.
He's got a really good ability. He's got 2 smokes, and on top of that, he has a secondary shotgun, the same as Mira's, which is used for sight setups. So the differences between like Sledge, Buck, and Jackal on like a theoretical level is Sledge will help you with horizontal destruction, so going through walls, whereas Buck will destroy entire floors, so vertical gameplay, and Jackal is just, he has this extra thing just in case you need it. It's not going to destroy a whole floor, but it allow you to have like
certain sightlines.
Holes. Yeah, it's certain sightlines where like I know people are going to play default positions on the site through here. I can snipe the anchors if I use my ITA correctly, and that's how people are like, I can actually use that, and it does a lot of work, and that's why he's had such a high spike of play. And also because we've had so many maps where soft destruction is very important. Like, you mentioned Bank. We've had a lot of Bank recently. We've had a lot of Coastline. Coastline has exploded in terms of how popular it is. And then Villa on top of it. Yeah, it is. And all those 3 maps have a lot of soft destruction. Yeah. Literally, Villa and Coastline are designed around that. So I'm happy with it.
Coastline's a great
We are so bad at Villa. It's not a
it's terrible. My thing is I'm either really good at it or I'm really fucking bad.
Like, but why though?
Yeah.
I there's no because I just don't know. I'm a terrible player. I don't know. I don't know.
I'll be the first to admit that I am not very good at the game. I just play it for fun. But Villa, I'm so bad.
I'm getting better with it because I'm realizing what needs to be taken over. So it's literally limited gameplay on my end. I don't get it that often, and then
and it's
as of recently, it's been a lot more. Like I've gotten it a lot more. It's the same thing with Fortress. I just don't know those angles that people can get me from. I don't know where, if I'm playing downstairs, where they're shooting up top. Like, I don't know that map as well as I do the other ones. So it's kind of, it's an education deficit.
Room. The room with the pool room, and then when you're
I hate that one. I don't know why everybody chooses that one. I think it's one of the worst sites. Well, everyone chooses it first. It's one of the worst sites
for Mira.
ever.
Everyone wants to use Mira on that, which I get. It makes sense, but everyone plays that. They play Mira, and then the attacking team always attacks from the angle that the Mira is trying to hold from. But they never come around the other way.
They do now. You haven't played recently. Yeah, I mean, they do now.
That's true. I will admit I haven't been on Siege. I'm a bad admin on this page. I've been playing a lot of Grand Theft Auto. We won't even talk about that, but
the other thing that I've noticed with like the newer maps that are coming out is you have like these same long sightlines, and I feel like there's a new Glaz Pro League or Elite skin, and I feel like they're trying to buff some. And the new guy's shotgun does more damage than Glaz. I feel like they're getting ready for these like sniper battles.
Yeah, let's not talk about. Well, actually, we can. But game balancing with specific weapons are kind of, like, oh hey, you give because
what he gets 76 damage and Glaz is 74 or something.
Yeah, it's something. It's really huge. Now the PMM is not far away from those, which is hilarious. By the way, it's hilarious because if for people that have ever shot a pistol that runs a 7.62 Tokarev, it's a tiny bullet compared to even 9 Parabellum. It's tiny, and then it still does more damage than a 308 sniper rifle. It's hilarious, or like very close to it. It's hilarious, I have to say. But like, yeah, the long sight lines are like hallways have to exist, obviously, in the game. It's just it's part of real design and everything. But it's just how many of them can you cram into a map before it's like maybe too much?
Yeah.
Like maybe you should have multiple flanking angles and everything. I haven't been able to play too much of a Fortress. It's just I've been away and haven't really had a PC around to play it consistently. But from what I got feedback from a lot of pro players is 50-50. They're like, either they'll say, oh, it's a pretty good map, we'd like to have it in Pro League, and then the other half is like, maybe not. There's like some sites or some stuff that don't have enough destructibility, vertical play.
I'd agree with that.
And yeah, that's the fair point. There has to be some of those, I think, with a lot of our recent map additions, at least in the past couple of years. Vertical play has been extremely important, and that's something we still see being revamped and put into older maps like Clubhouse, for example, that has a lot of destructive potential. But then the way that the sites are molded or changed, especially like Cast, for example, where now you can play a buck very well. You can use that soft destruction to your advantage if you go into the stock room and try to play like bottom up buck.
Sorry, my dogs are
having fun. Sorry. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that. It's good. I don't know if it really meshes with Fortress too well. Does it need to change? I don't know. I mean, that's why the Pro League map pool is restricted compared to your regular ranked and casual pool, because the maps that are deemed very flexible, yeah, like it really is worthy. I wouldn't agree on Oregon anymore because of that, but having destructibility is very important because it allows you to use different operators and not just stagnate and use the same ones every single time. It becomes boring to play and boring to watch and just frustrating.
I almost wish that the Pro League players would pick some of these characters that are less picked, like my Bae Frost. She
gets played.
I have very rarely seen her, not as much as like the normal standard.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And I don't understand why, because
she's situational.
But she had.
Here's the thing.
Yeah, but I think they're going for like ability. They choose some operators for gun, right? She has a fucking amazing gun.
Yes, that's very true.
That C9 is insane. And I do think
Yes.
she's essentially has 5 barbed wire. If you use her maps as like info or even a castle, she's almost a castle too, because even if they drone your map out, then they drone the mat out and they say, okay, well, there's a frost mat on that. They're either going to shoot it out when they go in there, they're coming, they just shut out your mat, or they're going to go a different way. So you can manipulate the map in 2 ways, and you have more information. She does have a really good. I just hate that they don't pick her. She's my babe.
No, she definitely does work out, but in like, and I want to go back to Coastline, for example. I know I talk about Coastline too much, but it really encompasses so many different strategies in it.
There's
Coastline is a
great
map.
placement for her on there.
Yes, and she's an extremely strong operator on there. Fabian is one of the only people. Later on, we've had some people from Team Secret, for example, running the Frost, especially on a kitchen defense. Why? Because in professional play, you have to clear parts of the map before you actually get to execute. So when you execute, there's not always a ton of time left. It's somewhere between the 10 and 30 seconds, usually in the round. Well, what happens is that because you're strapped for time and usually moving through smokes, their positions near the desk entrance into kitchen stock, where you're going to vault over the desk and try to plant behind the wall there or reinforce position. There's usually 2 frost mats in that position. They'll get one of the guys, and that's usually more than enough because, as we mentioned, it disrupts everyone. Same thing on the big window. Windows are good for it, but not just windows where you can rappel on. Windows you can rappel on, not great for that.
Right.
Windows that you just vault through and you're in,
right.
Those are windows that are good for frost mats. And you mentioned the C9. It's a great gun, and it's fairly easy to control. And sniping headshots with it, even pro tier,
it's a headshot magnet.
it is, and it's a good gun, and it works out. It's just for me, I go with the philosophy of an operator doesn't have to be viable all the time. In my opinion, that is a bit of a fault in game design. An operator that is a niche pick, but also excels at that niche pick is okay. Not seeing them all the time is all right. But when you see them, first of all, you get excited as a viewer, but also because you know that there's specific strategies going to be played, and you're like, okay, this is where the 200 IQ plays are going to happen. And that's what you're looking for. And then you can learn from it, and you're like, okay, maybe I can try to do this. But in my opinion, having an operator that gets played all the time is not great. And this is why I have to commend the change, which is you can put it on G2 and specifically their coach Shas for the suggestion, but Mute getting the SMG 11 means in professional play, oh man, you already saw a ton of smoke, but now or a ton of Mute. Now you're going to see more Mute and a bit less smoke, where the 2 ops are going to get closer and closer in pick rate.
Yeah.
Because now you can play with C4. For people that remember, and you guys probably do, when Smoke had C4,
that was ridiculous. You should have lost that. That's absolutely
yes, but then now you have Mute with this sort of utility and can have shotguns. The shotgun is very important. You need to have one shotgun at defense in pro play because you have to do what I call SimCity, which is a lot of destruction around the site. That's a StarCraft term, by the way. It's like an actual thing apparently. So you have to destroy a lot of walls. You have to set up sightlines for the defense. And shotguns are important for that because they just do the destruction very, very well. So now running a Mute is still very, very viable, and even more so than before. And you can completely forego a smoke, which is different now. You're not forced to play a specific operator for those roles. And I think this is where Jaeger starts to be on shaky ground because there's no one else that does the same thing as him. And I hope that in the future we get some sort of way of changing that, either with adding another operator that does a similar thing but different, like adding instead of to combo with Bandit. You can combo the 2, but then you can have only one of them and it still works out. It's just, instead of being an upgrade, it's a side grade.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah. I can see all of that. I'm curious to see where they're gonna go, because I think when the Finka Lion thing came out, they realized their mistakes They realized their
Yes.
mistakes. They
Oh,
screwed
yes,
up a
they
little
did.
bit on that one.
Yeah.
We get a lot of people who are super pissed that rank isn't set up like Pro League, and I don't want it to be. I don't think people understand exactly what that means. I think there's a
Yeah.
lot of education that needs to happen with the community itself, because there's a lot of people who are like, well, why can't it be like what Pro League is? We want a 6 pick. We want ban operators, and I get that, but there's more that goes into, like, they don't get the, like, when you down somebody, Pro League doesn't see it. They have no idea that that person's downed.
Mhm.
That's going to be a game changer in ranked. We put that into ranked,
Yes.
you guys are going to bitch about it. Like, and I've tried to explain that to a couple of people, and they're like, oh, no, it's not that big of a deal. And I'm like, turn it off for a night and tell me it's not that big of a deal, because it's a game changer.
Yep.
Those guys have no idea if they've downed somebody or shot someone through a wall, or if there was even somebody back there. Like, they don't know.
Yeah. It's all about your how you position yourself and how you understand the game
and communication and all of that.
Yes, it really changes everything. And
so I don't think that rank should be like Pro League.
Whilst I think that there should be some much closer comparisons between the two, I also agree that I don't think it's the problem of the game or ranked or whatever. It's just people that are playing the game in ranked, I don't think they are even ready for this sort of thing to be added in. In professional play, this works because this is the job of all the players to know all these things. Whereas when you get into ranked play, it's like you're just messing about, right? And you're playing, it's serious, it's not casuals, but still you're still gonna mess about because you're just playing there. It's not in professional play. And so being able to compare the two things is nigh impossible, in my opinion. There's no real way to see it, and whatever you do, some people just won't be happy with the change that they're implementing, and a lot of people just will take so long to understand how the game functions at that level that I think it's not gonna work well. If, for example, this works in games like Dota or in League of Legends or whatever, because you basically play the same thing the pros play, because that's the basic game design. Siege was not like that.
Yeah. Siege isn't like most games anyways, though. So
yeah, and
that's why we
because
love
of that, because of that, it's just, well, what do I do now? Because if you change too many things in the game, you risk alienating a lot of people that came into it because of that old system. But if you don't change something to make it more competitive, then the game loses its edge compared to other games where the edge of it's a competitive, high risk game. You mess up, you're dead.
Right.
And
you have one shot.
That's the thing. Exactly. But it's not only about the shot, it's about how am I going to play the game better? How am I going to learn to play better, not just with my aim? Because aim is one thing. That's not even in professional play.
The thing evolves. I mean, the game has evolved so much, even from the beginning. Like, I think if any of us went back and looked at any VODs we had from like the original, it's so different. It's so weird, even strategy wise. It's so different, and it's just evolved so much, even on the same old maps that we've known forever. And it's shaped so differently now, which is kind of cool. Like, you never play the same game twice.
Yeah, and on top of that, aim is just a tiny percentage of what it takes to be a top player. Aim, in rank play, and this is the big thing that a lot of people will mention. In rank play, you can get diamond just by being good at aiming, because there's less strategy involved, because you're not as organized as a professional team. Which, I mean, it's right there. It's right there in the name, right? But that's the big difference. If you want to be better and consistently be better, you have to learn these strategies. And I think if there was a change, it would upset too many people for it to be worth it. Like a radical change like that. But for me, removing night maps, for example, in ranked play would already be a step in the right direction.
It was a great move, I thought.
And that's honestly, it's just yes, that's how. If those tiny changes will actually have a much bigger effect, with a lot less negative parts
Mm,
than completely overhauling ranked and making it exactly like it is in Pro League.
I don't think that's I
Because I don't
just
think
don't think it
people
would
can
work.
handle. No, honestly, you give it right now where it's like ban phase, ban phase 6 pick. You play 6 rounds attack, 6 rounds defense. You give that to your average player, and they are overwhelmed. They are exhausted by the end of one game because Siege is an exhausting game because you're thinking about so many things at the same time.
Constantly.
Yes, you're
Right.
just okay. I want to, I want to chill after this. I don't want to be locked into an hour game.
Yeah, right. It makes no sense. I think, and that's the thing. I think they don't. There's a knowledge deficit there. I don't think that they realize what that entails. Pro League isn't long because they want it to be. It's long because of the format of it, and it needs
Mhm.
to be that long, bec- because it's Pro
For
League. It's
professional
so
play.
different,
Yeah.
right? It's so different, and I there's I, there's so many kids who watch Pro League, and you can tell that they've watched Pro League because like after the finals and G2 won and yay, Kanto was when they played Bank, Kanto played that one spot with Doc on the top, like by Banana, that like long hallway by elevators, right? He played that
Mhm.
one spot, and it was just annihilating people. Everybody played there, and I was like, I can counter you easy. You are not a Kanto aim. Like,
100%.
don't play like a pro league player if you're and you have nobody else backing you up. You are solo queuing, or you have a buddy that you're playing with, but none of them are pro league players either. You're a glorified plat
Right.
3. Don't try to play like a diamond. It doesn't work. So they would try that, and you could see like, oh, they like, it was literally like commentary, like, oh, they watch pro league, they're going to be in the Kanto spot, because you could see him like reinforcing that wall,
Yeah.
and you knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And I knew how to counter it based on watching Pro League as well. So I was like, okay, well, you're screwed. You're the first guy dead. Like,
But
get him
you know
every
what?
time.
The fact that they're learning this stuff because of Pro League is a very positive thing.
Oh
They're
yeah.
like, hey,
True.
if you get this, you're like, okay, well, now I know. Well, I hope this is the mindset of people, or like, oh, I died there. I have to think about it in a different way.
Right.
I have to understand why I failed in that, and that's
Yeah.
what separates you from being a good player and just someone that comes in and yells at the game for whatever reason. Like I see it, like, I see it in the comments as well for like, oh, ban pick and rank would be fun. Sixth pick, I don't know if people are even sold on sixth pick in professional play, but when it comes to bans, yes, I'm not sure the game as in ranked play is ready for bans just yet.
But then they would have to take Lion out of ranked.
Oh yes, 100%. It should be. Oh man, that's not a question.
But
I wanted to wear my Lion t-shirt, but it's in the laundry.
it is somewhat fun. Okay, so it is somewhat fun to, when you see them go blitz, make that cancer call. We're going full on AIDS, like, and you get like a lion, a finka, a blitz, a jackal. You just run in there.
Smokes everywhere. Everybody's running into.
You're just it's shock and awe. Those
But
are
see,
fun
that's the
calls to
thing.
make and ranked.
Is that she plays Lion?
I'm a
constantly.
terrible lion main, and actually, I don't play him that much anymore. I'm a terrible lion main. I don't use his ability. I like his gun. Admit
enough.
that,
That's
Weston.
I mean,
Admit that.
No.
Give me that much.
I don't know.
I very rarely use his ability, and I actually you haven't been playing with me very much. I actually rarely pick him anymore.
I know.
Only when the cancer call is made. I've actually been Okay, you can help me out with this one. How do you say is it Capitao?
Yeah, well, from what I've asked,
I get yelled at.
if you want to pronounce it like a Brazilian way, the thing on the A at the end, it's like it's like an N. It's like a N pronunciation at the end. So like capichão.
Capitao.
And it's capichão. It's like, because honestly, Brazilian Portuguese is different than standard Portuguese because it's much more melodious compared to regular Portuguese.
Right.
So
it's a very angry language.
Not as much. It's a lot more of a flirty language, actually, where the words at the end have a very musical tone to them compared to regular Portuguese, where it's like, very regimented. Whereas Brazilian Portuguese is much more melodious.
Okay. I just saw all of these comments. I'm a terrible
Yeah, I want to
person.
make a really quick, just general statement to anybody who's watching. Keep in mind, we are not Ubisoft,
No.
in
What?
any way, shape, or form. We are just a big fan page for Rainbow Six Siege on all platforms, but we are not Ubisoft in any way, shape, or form. Keep that in mind with your questions. Okay.
I saw one where it's like about Tachanka.
I
I
love
have a
Tachanka.
Tachanka t-shirt. It's
Oh,
Tachanka playing the saxophone. I should have worn that today.
Yes.
It's Tachanka playing the saxophone. It's the best t-shirt ever.
I mean, look, Tachanka in pro play. That's the question. And like,
He's just not mobile. Even as an anchor, you have to be somewhat mobile. He's
Well,
just not
and-
mobile.
exactly.
And they have absolutely agreed with the community that Tachanka is a meme. He will
Yeah,
always
100%.
be a meme. He's just that one guy that you pick when you're like, either fuck it, let's have fun, or I'm gonna spawn peek in a place that's just retarded to spawn peek from this area. Like oh my gosh, it's
Bikini.
escaping me. Border.
Oh,
Oh well, Bikini does it all the time.
Right.
Bikini's amazing with that. But Border, you hop out on that ledge and you kind of have like the bottom coverage, and then you put the Tatanka
Mhm.
turret up there. I've actually seen a guy on Xbox ace a team before they even left the spawn with the chunk, and I'm like,
that's
you're
a
dick.
dumb team.
That is a
Yes.
dumb
Oh,
team.
100%.
That's an
Dumb
Xbox team.
team.
Okay,
So-
we're gonna say keyword Xbox. I'm an Xbox player, but I'm sorry.
Honestly,
I
even on
should only have this
PC,
on Xbox.
it just
Well,
happens a lot.
That's
It's just
true.
the big reason of why he doesn't get picked in professional play is, first of all, as you mentioned, he's not mobile enough, and even a more anchor player like a Smoke, a Mira, well, to some extent Mute nowadays, but not so much. A Maestro, all these still, even an Echo moves quite a bit, and
Yeah.
they can't stay in the same positions like Tachanka does. And then you have Capitao, and then he just completely negates the fact that Tachanka exists. Which
Exactly.
you see in Capitao, it's a huge pick and pro league nowadays. Like,
That's been my thing recently. Because I just
mean,
don't
I
have an attack main. Like, I want to find one, I just don't. Him and Ying, I just like to piss people off. Just
See,
turn around pissing people off.
I'm kind of with Milosh. I've always been a medic type or a support type player, and I
Anchor.
play a lot of Battlefield. By the way, Battlefield's probably like my favorite series of all time, next to Rainbow. Rainbow will always be that number one, but when it trickles down, I've always been a Battlefield guy. Always played the medic, never played any other role. But Thatcher is one of my big mains because it's like, I always like being that guy when you go up to an area and they're like, well, crap, this is here and that's being countered and we can't get past this. Everyone's like yelling for like a countermeasure, and I'm like, I'm Thatcher, let's go.
Uh-oh.
Oh, by the way, I
I'll
don't know if
stop
you can still
texting
hear
his
me,
mom.
but for some reason the camera turned off.
I was just saying,
Oh, no worries.
we lost you.
Let me brook it.
We
in.
see
Plug
your
it back.
very surprised picture.
All right,
I
let
can't
me
believe I
get it.
just saw all of this stuff.
Oh, it's you without
Yeah,
a
there you go.
beard.
Yes, that's when
You
I
look like
worked
a
as a
baby.
journalist. I worked as a journalist at that event. That was ESL 1 Cologne 2016 in the summer.
Ah.
July.
Look
July
like a
2016.
baby.
Yeah. I'm so glad I did this. Now, I'm telling people, like, hey,
It is a glorious beard.
it's
Very
It is.
full.
it's not bad.
It's very
You,
full.
you need to shape it.
Is it
right?
It's
shaping?
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's
Shaping?
very defined. My looks scraggly because I'm usually a hobo, but
on your normal day.
Jeez.
yeah,
But like,
I don't
you
have
have to go to
anybody
the
to
barber.
impress.
The thing is, like, you have to go to a barber, make sure that it's clean, like every 3-4 weeks tops. You need to go and like make sure that everything's well done, or else it grows weirdly and it's not pretty at all.
But you had mentioned you're now in Poland, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so how do you go to a Polish barber not speaking Polish?
because they speak English.
Do they?
The different,
Do they?
yes.
Oh, okay.
Now here's the thing. In Poland, and then we're gonna get into a bit of the sociology of Polish
Lord.
Polish society, but there's a huge disparity between the older generation and then the younger one. Obviously, communism. That's why. That's the big reason why. And it wasn't long ago where the country had to rebuild itself, and that transitionary period from the old style to new style democracy and everything was huge for a lot of people here. And I had many conversations with them and how difficult it was in that transition period where there was a bit of a famine as well that they had to go through because the system was not implemented like that. That wasn't the old Soviet regime that existed. But because of that, everybody was so focused on their nationality, their own language and everything, because that was what defined them in the old system. Well, now, once you open up to the world and with a brand new, completely different generation of my age up to yours as well, then people kind of realized we can't actually live on our own. That doesn't exist. Like self-sufficiency is bullshit. That doesn't, when it comes to a nation, that
Tell
doesn't
Putin
work.
that.
He's satellite states will fix that problem. But still, like with Poland, you cannot exist alone, and you need to interact with other people. And English is the de facto international language.
Yeah.
And everybody will speak it. Everybody in our age group usually speaks it, or at least at some level. The thing with Poland is that they're kind of shy to use it. So when you talk to them, they don't know how to react. But most of the time, I go and talk, and if they say, "Oh, I'm sorry, my English is so great," it's like, "Don't worry about it. Your English is better than my Polish. It's completely fine. It's completely fine."
So
I can't hold up
Polish?
conversation. I understand a few things, but I'm not really learning Polish, but I can understand a basic conversation of like, what is this person asking of me or whatever. There's distinct words and whatever where you're like, you can catch on to them
you can pick it out.
Yeah, and you can really find it. No, I've already had like a ton of Polish friends before moving here, so I was already familiar with some stuff.
Yeah.
I would be so fucking lost.
Yeah, Mike, Kicks, Emzo, to some extent, and Taro as well. They get pretty darn lost when it comes to Polish, and like, there's some words that you can guess, and they'll save your life. Basic stuff. It's just with them, it's not that easy. But then again, with me, I've always had to speak a language that is not my normal language. I've always learned something else, or like just was interested. I wanted to be a translator before I then studied to be an optometrist and do something completely different than what I do. Well,
Wait,
actually,
you were an optometrist?
Yes.
That's badass.
They freak me out. That is my one thing. Like you can bleed. I mean, I'm a trauma nurse. Like you can bleed all over me. You can have your guts hanging out. You can poop all over yourself. You touch your eyeball though, I'm out.
My wife is the same way. Wife is exactly the same way. She doesn't do eye stuff.
Nope.
She can watch like any horror movie where they're stabbed or mutilated, but once it gets to the eye, she's fucking done.
I've done a couple of eye dissections. It's really fun.
No, I've done one.
I can't. I'm starting to get to that point where I'm.
No.
Nah, I'm good.
You get to learn so much. It's still not completely medical, but it's still paramedical studies. So it's not like in the U.S. No. In the U.S., you study for 7 years, and you're basically licensed to even do surgeries and stuff. It's not the same in parts of Europe. The UK and Germany have different laws about it, and same for the Netherlands, and literally everybody other than Belgium and France. Belgium and France are super restrictive when it comes to that kind of stuff, which I studied in Belgium, which is a lot freer than the French system, but still okay. You're not a doctor, which is okay. Obviously, you're not studying as much as a doctor, and they work all of that for a very good reason. But you're there to mostly focus on the optometry part of it, which is rehabilitation, fixing certain ocular and visual problems, instead of I will make the surgery or prescribe medicine, and that's fine by me.
Couldn't do it. Not gonna happen. So everybody's talking about shields and how they are too OP. And
Well, I kind of have to agree on that. Monty, not as much. I think when it comes to shields, Montagne is the most balanced of them because you will literally have to extend your shield to do anything. The big problem with shields, and this is not something that a lot of people will talk about, is the way that you can quick lean and do everything with them and then crouch spam and everything, and you just end up seeing this jumble of a lasagna of a guy in front of you just firing at you. You know what to do. And honestly, it's super frustrating to play against, and I completely understand it, which is why a better fix would be to limit the mobility of those operators. Now, a lot of people talk about Blitz
Instead, they
Finka.
increased his speed. What? Dude,
I was
TTS with Blitz, and you heard that chunk, 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 chunk. I was terrifying. Like,
You want me to tell you a story?
nightmarish.
You know when that
He's
was
a fucking
released?
8-speed.
That's
That was
terrible.
oh shit.
Oh, here we go.
Going invisible. We're gonna have to nerf you.
I'll never
Yeah.
forget that Blitz in that TTS when they decided to make him. He was like
It was basically a 3-speed with Finka.
he was terrifying.
Yeah.
And even
he's
now,
still
I was
terrifying.
about to say, even now, he's still a very terrifying sound to hear that clunk, clunk, clunk. I mean, you're like, oh shit, he's got to shield him out.
Yeah. You mentioned that TTS stuff, but like when that was released into TTS, I was at the Ubisoft office like a few days after Six Invitational. And I was there.
Emails.
I was there with Antero. There were like Canadian was with us, Sky, Slashug, Shate back then. It was pretty much 8 pros and 2 casters, and we're all looking at them like, why? And all feedback sessions were like, why?
No.
Why that? Why that?
Please stop.
Please. Oh, and that was the time where they also made it where if you're running with Blitz, you don't take your shield away.
Yeah.
So you're like, this is gonna be so frustrating to play against, and it was, and it still is. It's not as bad because not everybody picks him, but when you release a elite skin for him like that, everybody's gonna play him,
Right.
because they're like, look at my cool skin, and
Right.
it is a really cool skin, right? It wasn't honestly from now until like 2-3 weeks from now. Everybody's gonna play Blitz, and then until a next major release of a skin other than Glaz, he's gonna be played until things die down with another. It's just,
I'll give it. I'll. The only thing that is good as a female.
Yeah.
He's super hot, so I don't mind seeing him on the screen because I'm like, hey, how you doing?
We need to tell him what you do when you want an operator that
why do
somebody
we have
else
to
has.
keep talking about this?
Because this is your
doesn't
thing, and I have to call you out on it
works.
every time.
Guys should stop being so.
So no, hold on.
thirsty.
I'm gonna set the mood here, right? So we're
No, he does it all wrong. This is terrible.
Okay.
hold on. No.
Don't
I
judge
do
me
this
for this.
absolutely right. Just say shush first. No. We'll be in there, right? And someone will pick Frost, and she wants Frost. Everyone else is happy with their operator, but she's not. She hasn't even picked yet.
I'm a better Frost.
So it'll be super silent,
that
and she'll
guy's
go
gonna
into the. Hold on. Well, all you'll hear from the all chat, voice chat is, "Hi, can I play Frost, please?"
That is not how it goes.
That is exactly how it sounds. And then the next thing
They'll
you
drop it
know,
immediately.
they'll drop it because she's a girl.
All I say, I literally.
Maybe they're just nice.
Thank you.
Works every time.
It does.
But she,
it does.
you know what?
It
I
does.
hate to say it. She's done it for me too, and then I feel bad because like I'll want to play Legion or something, and she'd be like, "Oh, can I play Legion, please?" And then they'll switch, and I'll be like, "Ha, gotcha, bitch."
I'll do it on. Well, now the guys that so it's only when there's like a random person, obviously. And now, it doesn't work on my people. They're just like, no.
No, it doesn't.
You.
They're like, fuck you, Shay. I'll play who the fuck I want.
Now it's gotten to the point where I'll just be like, hey, can I get Legion, please? and they'll give them to me, and then all the guys will be like, "Hey, can I get Legion, please? I'm gonna spin it."
Or they'll just team kill you the second you get in game.
It's awful.
God.
But the badge works, and we've talked about this in the past, and it doesn't need to keep being brought up. Guys,
It's going to
stop
get
being
brought up
so
every time.
thirsty. And if you want enough, it works well for you, and if you don't, well, suck it up. I don't know.
They're not all thirsty. Some of them are just genuinely nice, and then I feel bad.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of thirsty guys out there too.
Anyways, we digress. So they're just still talking about Blitz. I don't think that a lot of people are saying that Blitz needs to be taken out of the game completely. That shield ops in general need to be taken out of the game. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think there's a place for him.
My opinion is just the frustrating part of playing against them is that it's not that you can't kill them, it's that they can kill you very efficiently as well. They can get up to in your face, and Blitz is just frustrating because he blinds you, and you can't really deal with him at range either. So the problem with Blitz is that he'll just run at you with the shield, get close where he can blind you, and you're like,
done.
I guess I'll die.
Right.
You can't really do a ton against him unless you're super coordinated, and obviously in rank play that's not going to happen. So
not normally.
it's understandable. Yeah, but like the fact that he can ADS so fast and kill you, and shield ops in general,
right?
That's it's the complicated part where he keeps moving, and at a higher level play within the game, like higher ranks, that's something where crouch spam is already a thing, but crouch spam, QE spam as he fires into you, you don't know what to do. You don't know what to aim, and you'll end up with no bullets, and you just die.
The crouch spam has become like the new drop shot.
Yeah, that's annoying. I hate that shit.
Like, I'm so happy that they've actually fixed that.
I can't remember who it was, but somebody was just streaming, and they were pissed off because somebody like crouch spam killed him. And he should have, it was one of those things where it should have gone the other way. And he got out of his chair, and he was like, "Who shoots a gun like this? Like, where do you see this happening?" And he's like crouching in the background. It was like one of the funny, but I mean, it was a valid point. Like, how if they want to make it a somewhat realistic game, how does that even like?
I mean,
also,
somewhat
who does
realistic
this
game
when they
where
shoot
you have Jackal that uses his
that's
X-Men camera in here and spots
that's
people's
that went out the window.
That's why I said
all that realistic shit went out the window a long time ago. We can't call Rainbow Six Siege a realistic game.
Oh,
it's
Lion, who if you press 4 brings up his form and is like, I got this. I
feel like if you say Lion's name, like it just it brings
I always thought I didn't even really think about Lion. I always thought, how the fuck is this opera? Does she like get the team together at the beginning of the game, and she's like, I'm gonna fit you with a needle that I control that fucking pushes adrenaline into you? Like, who the fuck's like, oh yeah, sure, put your needle on me. That's cool. You activate it when you want to go in, but when I want to go in, I'm fucked. Anyways.
Yeah, I mean, cool animation when she actually, clicks the button. I'll give him that.
Right.
There is the other thing. There is an ASMR thing for nomads, like the little click. I love the sound of that thing when she does that little like click for her. You know what I'm talking about? When she has her gun and she goes to activate her. I love the sound.
Yeah, it's very true.
ASMR for me, and I'm in love with it. I can't help it.
I mean, there's a lot of good sounds in Siege. It's the reason why like the V308 Lion's gun is so fun to use as well. Not just the damage that you do, but also the sound of the bullets actually coming out of it is really empowering. You're like, wow, this sounds like an actual gun.
Yeah.
Some of the auto mixing in the game has gotten much better than what was on release. I don't think it's at level of like Battlefield sound mixing, which I still think is like the best out there when it comes to video games.
Absolutely.
But you can't beat that just because of the way that things are.
I'm gonna have to say, and a lot of people are very salty about this game because of the issues that they have had. But if you've ever really just kind of sat down played PUBG and just listened to the distant gunfire, the distant explosions, and then the incoming suppression, it's
Mhm.
almost on Battlefield's level. Like their gun sounds are pretty amazing, but nothing will ever beat Battlefield 3, and that game probably had the best sound that of all.
Yeah,
Well,
BF1 and
Battlefield
BF5.
5 is pretty
BF1 and
good.
BF5, they're really really good when it comes to audio mixing, not to other stuff, but
Yeah.
purely audio mixing. I play on war tapes, for example, so
Oh,
you
that's absolutely,
hear
you have to.
crackle, and
Yeah.
in BF5 you can hear that very clearly. But like in Siege, you don't have that same thing. But sound propagation in Siege, when you're in enclosed rooms and buildings, is very interesting to hear because if the whole floor, let's say it's a destructible floor, but there's nothing blown up in it, well, you can't really hear much of what's happening below. You can hear footsteps, but that's about it, which makes
Right.
sense if everything's silent. You blow up a couple holes, you hear more of the sound propagate, and the more of the floor is destroyed, the more you're going to hear what's below. And I'm not a game developer, but I can tell there's a lot of work that actually goes into that, and kudos for that. It's
Right.
pretty impressive.
I do have a question for you on that, and this is kind of more for my own personal taste. A little selfish of a question here, but other people might benefit from it. And before I ask the question itself, I've kind of gone through and I think I've owned like 15 different headsets in the last year because I keep buying them and then I'll return them because I hate the way they sound or I hate the way they feel, blah blah blah. But what headset do you prefer to use when you play a match?
Now I'm wearing in-ears right now.
Right.
But the important part of it is not the in-ears or what I'm using as a headset, because you can get pretty good headsets and in-ears pretty well. In my opinion, the thing that really makes a bit more of a difference is an audio mixer.
Okay.
It can really bring out a lot of the 3D in the game. For example, I'm not trying to promote any specific product, by
You're
the way.
totally
just
allowed to if you want to.
Understandable.
We're not one of those.
I'm
I'm
not
a Logitech whore, so that's okay.
Well, I'm using this G703.
Logitech, love it.
I had a Razer. My standard driver for many years was the Razer Deathadder 2013, which is a really good mouse. G703 is now. It's really nice as a wireless mouse. This is the best wireless mouse you can get out there, in my opinion. It's bigger than a G Pro. It's literally the same thing, but it's big enough for my hand.
See, but you have man hands. I have little baby girl hands.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, like big hands. G703 is great. I have a Zowie EC1A, which is a really big mouse as well. It's pretty nice. But like when it comes to audio stuff, what I'm using right now is an audio controller. It's a Sennheiser GSX 1200 Pro. 1200 is pretty good, but the 1200 Pro just has a few extra settings on it, and it allows you to really have like full 3D audio when you're playing. It's very, very, very good. You can pinpoint stuff very efficiently. And what I have now is in-ears. I bought these like a week ago. Recommendation for a lot of pros. A lot of pros at tournaments will use this very same bit of in-ears, and these are Bose Quiet Comfort 20s. They're very good, and they also have active noise canceling. So for all of us that travel a lot and do a lot of flights, active noise canceling is extremely comfortable.
Right.
Because just in the past year, I've clocked up almost 80 flights. So having these in-ears with active control is just, oh my god, this is so comfortable.
So even when you're flying and stuff,
you can hear barely anything. This is
I'm terrified of flying. I can't do it.
It's absolutely fantastic. It gets boring and a waste of time at some point, and I'm gonna do a lot of it the past couple of weeks. But this is like a headset that I really like. It's a Sennheiser 569 Pro, and yes, I know the 69 part was a big reason of why I bought it as well.
I love it.
That is a really good headset, and for people that want closed headsets instead of in-ears, those are very good. The Quiet Comfort is actually super comfy to use, but they're still in-ears. So if you use them for an extended period of time, they're not as comfy as just a headset on.
That's why I like the cups, which like this is the Logitech 933. I mainly got these because they're wireless, and I have kids that like to come up and jump on me, and
Yeah.
not having an extra wire, they used to yank it off my head, and they'd always break. Um, but I also have sinus problems, so if I have in ears for too long, kind of get a little. But those Sennheisers, I'll have to check. I'll have to look into those and.
Yeah, they're pretty good. I use the same
Wow.
Logitech headset that you have now at like some events. I also use the Astra. These are A50s, right?
Yeah, these are A40s.
A40s. I
I
used
yeah.
A30s and A50s. And what I found
Very
with
nice.
Astra is that they're, I don't know why. It just I found that they weren't
Suck it.
super comfy to use compared to HyperX
Right.
Cloud, like a
I
Cloud 2 or an
honestly-
Alpha.
Oh,
I think it's based on how your head is made.
Yeah, and it's
I mean,
The
my ears
morphology.
fit perfectly. I can wear these for hours on end because I play for hours on end. So, and my ears are inside, like they're not smushed in any way, shape, or form. They're super comfy
Well-
on my head. Like I don't have any problems with my Astros. I
Shay,
like
you
them.
should give these a try sometime.
I spent a lot of money on these, and I'm
Well,
gonna
see, but
literally
you
wear
don't-
them until they break, and then I'm gonna tape them together and wear them for another 50 hours.
See, you would never have to do that with these because this is a full metal band, and it's leather, and these are probably. I use these on Xbox.
You buy them for me, and I will talk.
These are
HyperX
like
Cloud 2s
50
are the
bucks.
best. These are the best bang for your buck, in my opinion.
true.
If you're strapped, but you cash strapped, but you still want to get good stuff, get HyperX Cloud 2s if you
They-
can.
They made a newer version. I think it's the Cloud Alpha.
They're
That's the newest one. I hate the only thing that I hate though is I hate non-USB headsets for PC. I'll use the 3.5 for my Xbox when I
Mhm.
get on there, but when it comes to PC, the 3.5, and maybe it's just my PC, but they just don't sound right with the
But-
3.5.
Don't the HyperX ones come with like the audio
Adapter.
controller?
They do, and the other thing that I didn't like about them, and don't get me wrong, I loved my Cloud 2s when I had them. These ones are the Cloud Cores, 'cause that's the Xbox version. But the thing that I hated about the Cloud 2 is that I like to have the monitor and the mic so I can kind of hear my own feedback. It's just a comfort thing for me. I feel like I yell into the mic more when I don't have that, and HyperX doesn't
You
do that.
yell in general.
Well, that's true, but I'm a loud person, so
You yell just in general. No,
I only
Oh,
yell
yes.
at you.
Fair enough.
That's true.
It's like wait, Ubisoft needs to give Ella realistic.
Recoil.
Have you shot a real? I've actually shot a Scorpion Evo, a CZ3A1. It was a semi-auto, but I fired it as fast as I can go, the full magazine. And honestly, Ella's recoil is pretty close to what it is. You can
Yeah.
get so many shots up in like the center of the target, and it's just no problem at all. But again, you're just hitting man-sized targets at that point. But full autoing, you still be able to control it fairly well. And on the way that it's portrayed in the game right now, I think is all right. Ella is in a good spot. I don't think she's OP, or she's not when she was on release, where you, and even in professional play, if you don't pick Ella, you're gimping yourself.
Yeah.
You needed a dedicated Ella player, and if you had that, you're Gucci. If not, it's a complicated thing. Now,
But
not the case.
I do want to touch on that though. When we're talking about the realism of the game, there's so many things that is more important than the recoil on the gun. Like we've talked about the whole I'm gonna dip potato chip shoot you. Best term. If you don't know dip potato chip, go educate yourself. But there's so many other things.
Yeah.
But
Crouch spam, silent
Yeah.
drops, hatches, all of that. Those are,
I
they're
think
they're complicated to fix. The only way to like you have a cooldown on it where you can't
Right.
click so fast. I don't know.
But
I
even
think they
then,
could
like,
do what Battlefield does. I mean, when you crouch down, I don't. I think some games are different than others at the Battlefield, but the main majority is when you change positions, it de-aims you,
Here's
and
my
then it
thing.
also sways your.
Here's my
sight.
thing,
Go
and I
ahead.
have said this before. Here's my thing on people who are saying, "Oh, well, they need to fix it like this, or else I'm not going to play." I don't think Ubisoft is focused on one person who's like, "Well, I'm not playing your game anymore." But they're looking for the masses, so they're looking to please a whole community of people. They're also looking to
Right.
balance a game. So just because you feel that something's not right doesn't necessarily mean that it's not right. You just need to learn how to better yourself against that particular thing. I
True.
think changing stuff like the big decision to change the drop shot, that was a big decision, and that's a game changer for some people. So to sit there and say, you need to do this right now and it needs to be a quick fix, you can't necessarily do that because it does change the whole game. So you need to sit there and you need to test that out. You need to make sure that it works a certain way. How much is it going to change the actual aim? Will this actually work for the game? Like, there's a lot that goes into that. So if you think that Ubisoft isn't looking at these bugs and trying to fix this stuff, yes, but some of those fixes aren't as simple as you guys assume that they are. I don't know if anybody out there has ever developed a game, especially one as big and complicated as Siege is, before you make
or
these...
has had a bit of a turbulent history as well.
So before you make these blanket statements about it, look at it from a different set of shoes. That's my soapbox. And
very cool.
But I mean, some of these changes aren't as simple as just take it out, change this, magic wands.
Yes.
Like, it just doesn't work like that.
By the way,
please.
Oh no, go ahead. So no, go ahead.
No, continue.
I was just gonna say big shout out to a buddy that I haven't had a whole lot of time to spend with. His name's Bryce. He's watching us live right now, but he's like super jelly. He's like, I want to talk to people like you get to. But anyways, let's move along here.
The honor is all mine. But with like, there's definitely some people in a better position to criticize parts of the game,
right,
and have an opinion. It's like, oh yes, sure, everybody's opinion is valid, but let's go back to the realities of things. If we abide by a technocratic system, which means if you're good at something, you probably should be in a position of power within that field that you exercise so well, then which means it's all about merit, which means maybe you should be listening to people, professional people that talk about all this. And if all of them are agreeing, not because obviously you're not going to listen to one person. If you listen to all of them, to a few hundred of them, and then you get the same feedback, maybe there's something that's not working well. It's not a blanket statement to, it's like, oh, but they're not balancing the game for you. But and not only is it how do we balance the game for it to be balanced as well, but how do we do it in a way where we don't lose out on the fun factor for your average player? And there's a certain point where it's fun, but it's fun because it's broken, and that's where I draw the line of
raptor legs.
Okay, that was fun.
I want raptor legs back.
Oh yeah, raptor legs.
I want raptor legs.
Yes.
I want to start a petition for raptor legs to come back.
They should just make that an elite skin,
Yeah, we just have guns sticking out of our chests.
It'd be something like, I mean, honestly, if at some point they introduced taunts into the game, I'd like them to have like, where in TF2 you have like the spy crab. You can have a similar thing where it's like the raptor legs for certain operators. There you go.
Perfect.
Ubisoft, I just made like $10 million. There you go.
Easy.
If I can
get like 15%
awesome.
of the profits, that's all I need. That's all I got.
I know we have the custom game modes where obviously you can go. A lot of the YouTubers out there, bikini boating being one that we had, would use that he uses that to make his videos, a lot of his memes. But I really feel like it'd be really cool on the raptor leg subject if they would add a little bit more features on that for the people that do make those meme videos and make YouTube videos for Rainbow Six Siege, to have options like you would in the old style games. Like, you had like big head mode or infinite ammo mode or something like that. Like, could you imagine turning on infinite ammo and never having to reload with Capital, and you're just constantly shooting fire arrows? Like, you could make so many meme videos with something like that,
Well,
uh-oh,
that probably already exists in the game.
Oh,
but it exists on developer builds and not for
Oh, that's
Right.
not
me.
fair.
Understandable.
Develop because the guy's gonna like, oh, this is fun. I'm just gonna go try it out,
Right.
and they just have it in their build. And I'm like, okay, I can just I can click buttons and skip phases and do whatever I want because you can have God mode where you literally fly through the map because it turns you into technically a spectator. Like those are things that every single game out there has when it comes to a developer debug build.
Right.
It's a
I just think-
standard thing.
I think it'd be cool if they gave that. I mean, even if they only gave it to some of these YouTubers out there, like a lot of games will do that. They'll give certain people that
Mhm.
give them more revenue by making the game popular on Twitch and YouTube, blah blah blah. Just give them the ability to have a little bit more fun for our
But the
entertainment and
problem with that,
enjoyment.
though, too, I mean, like I said, there's one view, and then there's always the backhanded end of that. There's the 180 view of that. You get people who have never played the game that are like, that looks really awesome. I want to do that, and then they get into the game and they have blitz run at them, and it's like a totally different thing than what they're used to. They're like, what the hell is this? And
Which
then
is
they're
why
out.
I think the good compromise would be like, hey, we're already playtesting and we're recording some stuff. How about you record some stuff with these like fun stuff that we have, and you'll have
Right.
some of the stuff about it, and you can specify that, hey, we just played this on a fun build that we had. Now the problem is when you show too much of that, then people are gonna start saying like, oh, why can we have this all the time? Blah blah.
Right,
And like,
right,
and they just
That's
open a
true.
whole can of worms.
right.
That's true.
Deal with the fact that the game doesn't really work, and that's why we have to postpone Pro League. But it's just
What's the word on that?
it came out last night. Officially, Pro League will be back on January the 8th. Now,
Okay.
Wonderful.
I will give you dates because, oh man, will it be interesting? Because
Just jam packing it now.
yes, so from the 8th of January until the 31st, there's 23 days, right? I'm good at math.
Quick math.
Yeah, quick math, exactly.
Right.
It's 23 days. Well, in 23 days, only Pro League, not even counting 6 invitational qualifiers, which are happening at the same time, there are 19 broadcasts.
Oh my god.
19 out of 23 days. The only days that are off are Saturday the 12th, Saturday the 19th, and Sunday the 20th, and then Sunday the 27th. Otherwise, there is a Pro League broadcast every single day, and some of them are back to back at times. It's
That's
just
awesome. For us.
it's awesome,
Not for you.
but it's also exhausting for
Right.
a viewer.
Right.
Not for
It's
you.
exhausting for viewer. Like viewership exhaustion is actually a super real thing when it comes to esports, and you don't want to have too much happening at the same
I can
time.
see that.
Right.
But
And
like
most
you
viewers
after
are gonna
that, the
watch their
fact
favorite people anyways.
That's but I
Yeah.
mean that's also that phrase. It's not a party if it happens every day, right?
exactly 100%, unless it is a party. But
Jeez.
still it would be extremely exhausting to go through it, and then you add on top of
Right.
it 6 invitational qualifiers that are happening with studio broadcast, and so my god, at least for us forecasters, we had the talk with our bosses, we had the talk with Ubisoft, and we're like, hey, it would be nice if we had some backup for this. And what's
That's
probably
for
going to happen
Stokes.
yeah, and what's probably going to happen is we're going to have some extra talent to help us on this. A lot of people have been seeing talent at DreamHack or majors or at U.S. nationals, especially, or Canadian nationals or whatever. Well, we're probably going to have 2 or 3 people coming in from those, and then they can come in, do 6 invitational qualifiers. It'll be good experience for them. It's just good for everyone to have a variety of voices and faces that you get to see on Pro League, because it is a big product, and Rainbow Six is big as well, and I don't see why it shouldn't be something open to more people if they're good. Again, you still have to maintain a certain standard of quality when it comes to the broadcast and game knowledge, etc. But with enough work and careful selection, then I think that we're going to be able to survive through it pretty handily. Then the big question will be like, okay, now the end of the month, we have 10 days until 6 Invitational. We're going to have to get ready for 6 Invitational, which is obviously the biggest event of the entire year.
I want to see
Absolutely.
that. Do you have any guess as to who you think? Okay, let's ask this question.
I'm gonna
Who's
default
your
to it all.
favorite team, and who do you think's gonna win?
I
They
don't really
can
have
be
a
one and the
favorite team.
same.
My favorite team is the team that can adapt to their opponents in the best way, no matter who it is.
Who do you think that is at this point?
G2, no question.
100%. Okay. I was gonna fight
Not
with you
just
if you didn't say
no,
I
no, no, no.
love. I'm a big Pengu fan, especially ever
Goga.
since we had him on the stream. He's a super nice guy.
You see this jersey here?
Yeah.
This jersey is the old Penta Sports jersey. This is actually the jersey that Pengu wore when he won Year 2 Season 1 with Penta Sports when Falco and KS used to play on the squad.
Nice.
Their first time as a full team. That was my first event as well. Pengu was nice enough to take off his jersey and give it to me because Fabian couldn't because he wasn't wearing anything under his jersey.
Awkward.
But this is still unwashed from then because the signatures was go away. But this is signed
Right.
by the entire team back then, and this is a
That's
huge
cool.
important gift for me because it symbolizes that even from day one when I entered Siege at events, everybody, including the winners of the event, which have the biggest bragging rights, were nice and humble enough to go up and offer me this thing as a token of appreciation for the work. And honestly,
That's
I'm
awesome.
humbled by it. And for people out there that have never been to a Siege event, please, if you can go to US Nationals, Canadian Nationals, you can go to French Nationals, Italian, whatever. Everybody has a national tournament right now. But then you have Pro League finals, you have majors, DreamHacks. If you can do it, go. So many lives have been changed because of it for the better. And you just end up meeting everybody. Because maybe some people are like, I'm too shy. Or I don't know how to deal with it, blah, blah, blah. Just go.
My thing is and
Just-
I've had
honestly.
friends who say, "Oh, well, but I'm so shy. I couldn't walk up to these people." I'm like, these are
Go.
gaming nerds. These are guys who are not used to people speaking to them. They sit at home and they play video games for hours. Do you think that they're probably 10 times more nervous that you're coming up to them than vice
Yes.
versa? So
Honestly,
go talk to them.
at the Paris Major, for example, because it was a very like a EU rounded event, I took nothing less than 200-300 pictures with people. And it's just, I don't know how to react to you as much as you don't with me. Because I'm like, this guy is coming up to take a picture with me. I am very humbled. I don't know what to do. Whatever, let's go. And you keep going through that, and you never really get over it because you would have done the same if it was a player or a caster or whatever that you look up to in the scene. And
Right.
what you should be learning as a personality in the scene is I should be showing people, especially a lot of the young audience within the game, how they should act as better people, not just within the game. Because as much as I like to say, Siege goes beyond just being a video game. It transcends that and enters people's lives in a very personal way. For me especially, it has changed my life in a very positive manner. And a lot of people that have had like problems with anxiety or problems with just being shy in general, overly shy. Going from I'm talking to this person in Twitch chat or playing with them on Discord or whatever to I am meeting them in real life and we're having a blast at an event is such a rewarding thing that not experiencing this sort of thing is really going to eat at you. And when you do, it'll be a sweet release because you're like, finally I got to do it. And everybody was nice. Took pictures of everyone, and I went out to dinner with everyone or had drinks, got to talk about the game, got to watch cool matches together. It's an overall experience. And if you can go to a Siege event, do not hesitate because it is
so badly.
It's completely worth it.
This last one, I'm looking at it right now, just ended on the 16th for the U.S. National.
Mhm.
I was in Las Vegas, which is last time I looked, a 16-hour drive, which is not bad for U.S.
For the U.S.
But the bad part would be is the state that and this is just American economics in a nutshell, real quick. The state that I live in, for example, gas is like $2 a gallon. It's super cheap. A soda would be like $1.50 to 75 cents. If I were to go to Las Vegas, for a damn soda, I'd be spending like $5-6 for a little tiny soda, or like $20 a freaking drink at the casino or wherever, because that is just an expensive place to
Yeah,
be. So
it's
I would have
literally a
spent,
city in the middle of the desert.
yeah, I would have spent so much money just trying to stay alive there than I would in gas driving all the way out there. It's just bad.
Yeah, like it's understandable, and this is why I'm that Ubisoft in general releases information about events a lot earlier than what they used to before. So
Right,
they're like, oh, 6 months before the event, you know what's happening.
right.
And it wasn't the case for US nationals, but I think that's going to change later. But like 6 months before the invitational, you know exactly where it's going to be.
They
You
should
know?
bring it to Albuquerque where I live now, because this is becoming one of those places.
We just talked about
that-
them not catering to one person, Rustin.
I'm not. That's not what I'm saying. You know what? Most of the Marvel movies, Spider-Man, the Avengers, they have their headquarters here in Albuquerque. I rent cars to their studios all the time. So much Hollywood stuff is coming to Albuquerque. It'd be amazing if the video game industry got in on that, because it's just so cheap to have everything here, because taxes are like non-existent. So
Yeah,
that's
but-
why it's just economically it makes sense. But it's like who
You
the
still
fuck
have to
knows
go
about
there.
Mexico? Yeah, exactly.
You
You
still
still
have
gotta
to go
get
there.
here. We're in the middle of fucking nowhere from any
Yeah.
other fucking major city in the U.S. So that does make sense. But
And that's the thing. Like when we did the Paris major, it was Paris. When he did Cologne for Gamescom, it was Gamescom, which is huge, 400,000 attendee event. It's
yeah,
insane.
oh god,
It's huge. And then you go to Rio de Janeiro, which is a couple hours drives from Sao Paulo, and that area on its own between the two cities and their agglomerations is around 50 million people. It's
Oh, wow.
insane. And
Yeah.
we did Atlantic
it's
City,
nuts.
New York, Boston, Washington. They're not far away. Atlantic City is kind of I have to say. I'm not a fan of casinos, and I'm also not a fan of Atlantic City
Jersey.
subsequently.
Right.
Let's
That was my
spade
first
here.
time in the USA. That was the first time in the US, and I'm like, God damn it, it's all real. I had a culture shock in the US. I'm like, whoa, all the stuff that I see on TV and in movies is
No.
actually real. Holy
no,
what?
no.
No. He's right.
No.
I agree with him.
That is Jersey. That is the only good thing Jersey has is radio stations.
Well, okay. You know what? You know what's
I
funny?
was born in New Jersey. Trust me.
Albuquerque is more crime-ridden than Jersey.
Yeah, but still, Jersey's
Whoa.
dirty. It's like a zit on Never mind. Sorry, we'll just.
That's Albuquerque is like the same way. There's a nice part of town that's like this big, and then the rest of it's like a big shithole. That's Albuquerque for you.
I mean, I went to Austin, and I
Austin's
went
weird, I
to
like
Atlantic
it.
City. Austin is pretty fun, I have to
Austin's
say.
Yeah, Austin's
Austin's
cool.
a nice place to be. People are really nice. And honestly, I wasn't expecting it. My dad used to live in the US. He lived and studied in the US for a bit. And he tells me stories about the US where it's like everybody was super nice to him, et cetera, and stuff like that. And I'm like, I haven't really been there, so I don't know what it's like. And actually, when I went there, I was super surprised that everybody was so friendly and so nice. In New Jersey and in Austin, oh my God. Southern hospitality is a real thing.
100%.
People are super nice, and the food is great, and everybody's very friendly towards you. And I'm like,
Yeah, but
this
your
is
body
nice.
mass is gonna go. Everything's
Very true.
fried.
I'm already working on that, but
You're
like,
cultivating
still,
mass.
yes, I'm bulking. But it's a fun experience to go these sorts of places, and it is a bonus of the job. However, at the same time, it's got a negative bit because when you fly out to this place, you're going there for work, and more often than not, if you're going somewhere in the city, you're going for like just a few hours, and you're like, I could have seen more. We went to Rio, and I'm like, I have to go, and then we were stuck doing rehearsals and event and everything, and it's a huge city. Like it's huge to drive in Rio to get to one place and another. You're like, we're basically in the city area, but we're 2 hours away from the city center because it's such a huge city. But I'm in Rio. If I don't go to Copacabana and I don't go to Christ the Redeemer, why the fuck did I
Right,
even
no,
go to
yeah.
Rio?
Yeah.
And It was like a Monday. We're flying. We have to be on the bus to go to the airport at like 3:30, and we were at a party, like after party the night before, after the Rio finals. I go to the hotel and go to sleep at like 4 a.m. I wake up at 7, and we're good to go at 8. And we go at 8, visit Copacabana, which is like a 15-minute drive away, and then it takes another 45 minutes to get to Christ the Redeemer. But it was totally worth it, and it was raining. The one day where we had time to do it, it was
Oh,
raining.
wow.
Yeah.
It was a bit of a tropical storm. We get to Christ the Redeemer, we are soaking wet, and you couldn't see too much of the city below because of the clouds and everything. But oh my god, the view is absolutely fantastic, even through the clouds.
Huh.
Being able to do these sorts of things is really cool. Like, went to Paris. I'd already been to Paris like 7-8 times before because I lived in Brussels and it's like an hour train away. But you go there, and I took Intero and Kix and Wilkie and Zeronic and Panky. Took them all out to the city. Or like, okay, I'll show you around a few of the places. I know the city decently well. And they're like, wow, this is pretty cool. And that's the experience that I had the first time I was there. But you couldn't see everything. And in Montreal, I've already been to Montreal, but it's a beautiful city, fantastic place to be. It's the same thing. I went to Helsinki, I went to Stockholm, all of those places, and they're like,
You don't get
my
to
God.
visit.
It's the whole world is so beautiful. And then, maybe if focus what really brings us together and the nice things that are in the world instead of focusing on the bad parts of it and what divides us, maybe would
Absolutely.
we'd be in a much better shape. Not, it's specifically for everybody in the world, not really for anyone in a specific part of it. But yeah, there's what is my mother says, God's earth is beautiful no matter where you go. So it's
True.
it is a real thing. Once you get to travel, you're like, humans can do many things, but the world itself is a beautiful place. We should appreciate that.
It's kind of cool
Absolutely.
that also for, like, I mean, I'm old, so I've been playing video games since
Yes,
I
you
was a
are.
very small child. I played the original Atari. Like, I've been doing this. My generation is what made this possible. So I think it's sort of cool now that people can make a career and travel the world and like make a very good career for themselves playing a video game. It's a very
It's
interesting.
wonderful.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
very interesting thing that was never even thought of when I was a kid. Like when I
Yeah,
was
I
growing
mean,
up, that's not a thing you did.
that's
Yeah.
why, like,
If I
shout
could
out
have
to all
gone
the
OGs.
mom and dad gamers.
Yeah.
Because seriously,
Yeah.
it is a really important thing for like the growing generation. Because back then, I can only imagine what it was with you specifically, Shay. With like back then, it was seen as a bit of outlier thing to
Oh, yeah.
play video games,
I was a nerd.
Yeah.
right?
I was a nerd.
Whereas nowadays,
Oh, yeah.
everybody complains about the Fortnite dances and everything, and I'm one of them. But at the same time, you have to understand that this is a generation of young people that is bound together by video games, and because of them, they are getting together and dancing and singing and doing whatever activities together. That's the thing we should be focusing on, and not
True.
just being Debbie Downers like, oh, back in my day or whatever. No, we should be evolving. People now understand that video games are a huge part of people's lives, and there are now people, including myself, that live off of all of this, even though it might not be the thing that they studied in university or had as a job or whatever. But it's
They're
an
good at
extra career path. Yeah, they're good at it, and
See,
if you're good at
yeah.
it, everybody wants to know who's the best.
Right.
Absolutely.
And I think
See, and
there's a couple of things that plays into the competitive nature of humans in general, and so I think that's one thing that's very appealing to younger kids now. There's like that competitive nature is almost magnified in this newer generation. And that could be because of the gaming generation that came before that. But like for my son, I have a 7-year-old and he's a super gamer. Like everything's he will literally cut his legs off if he can play for 30 minutes. Like he is super into it. So for me as a mom, it gets me cool points because he knows like I play a game and he thinks it's super cool and I get some cool points from that. But also it's something that I use as, okay, you get your homework done, you keep your room clean, you get 30 minutes of gaming time, and he knows. He'll set his alarm. It kind of keeps him on a certain track.
Yeah.
He knows, and I'll throw it out there. he'll do something bad at school, and he's like, "You're not going to take the games away, are you?" Because he knows it's the first thing I'm going for. Like, so as a parent, it's something that you can kind of use to keep them on the up and up. And our parents use certain things too. Now my son wants to be a YouTuber. You ask him what he wants to be when he grows up, and he'll tell you a YouTuber. Back in my generation, they'd be like, there's no way if I said I want to be a professional gamer when I grow up, my mom would be like, no, you're going to college. Like,
Oh yeah, trust me about
now
this.
That's the thing. Kids are making millions upon millions of dollars playing video games, and
there's still
posting them to YouTube.
outliers compared to your average person, of course, which is something that also needs to be understood by people. But it is an opportunity. Hello.
There's
Say
still
hi.
your basic person though.
Can you say hi?
I mean, you have partnered streamers on Twitch. You have non-partnered streamers on Twitch who work full time as affiliates, make a pretty decent living playing video games. Like,
Right.
not even partnered. They have people who donate and subscribe, and it's amazing. That's a really cool thing, I think.
Yeah. Chat, I see Khudr Abbas. I actually met him at the gym. I was at the gym like 2 weeks ago and met him there. And he's like, "Oh, Prolycaster," and it was an interesting conversation
That's
after.
kind of cool.
So even there, it was pretty fun. Anyways, what you were saying?
That's sort of cool. I see that stuff never happens where I live. I need to move somewhere cool.
No.
I would like to go to one of the events and meet some, because like I've done interviews with a couple of the I've played with a couple of them like in Siege, and I do think it would be kind of cool just to like sit down and have a drink with them and not have to talk about the game, because some of them I feel like I would really get along with. Like some of them I'm like, you're a cool person, like we're both mega nerds, let's get weird, so
yeah,
I think it would be interesting. But I also think that there's a line in the sand, because they are pro players, so they want to meet those other pro players that they've been playing with, and that there is that differentiation between the two. So I have to be better at the game.
It's about that time. We've been at it for about 2 hours here.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that flew by pretty quick. We woke up my daughter. I don't know if you can see. She's sitting on my lap right now. Poor thing, she's all mad at me.
Well, thank you so much for
absolutely.
Any parting words? Are there
been
anything
amazing.
you'd like to say to this community?
Well, thank you for having me on. First of all, as I mentioned to you early on when you contacted me about this, and like I am already part of this group, so it's fun to see myself on there. So hey, keep up the good work, I guess, with the group. And well, I want to thank Ubisoft for creating such a fantastic game, even though it doesn't always work exactly how we'd like it to be.
Welcome to life.
Welcome to life, indeed.
Right.
As long as we get things fixed and we can actually get through with Pro League, then that's all that matters. I also want to thank ESL for all the help and the opportunities they've given me. And some of my coworkers that actually somehow joined this, because I got the notifications actually on Facebook. They were watching. So yeah, because there's a lot of people from the office, but still, it's just if people want to get better at the game, the best way to do it, just like with any sport or anything, is to watch the best people that do it.
Right.
Watch it, learn from them, and it might not be something you can apply directly into your game, but it's still a mindset that you can understand. How do they do this? How can I set things up with my friends as well? All of that you can learn by watching the best, just like with any sport. So you wanna get better?
Watch them.
Yeah, you want to get better? Watch Pro League, understand how things go, and that's really the biggest thing for me. Pro League has changed the lives of many people, and I hope it changes yours for the best. And hey, if you can go to a Siege event, then do it. You will not regret it. That's something that I ask pretty consistently, is like, what do you think about it? They're like, oh, it was all cool. So yeah, I hope more people get to do it and get to have that experience, because it's totally worth it. Anyways, that's basically everything from me. You can find me on Twitter, on Twitch. I actually do specific VOD reviews for pro matches, so people can come in and learn these kinds of things. And a lot of times, not just that, but the pros that are in that match will come in and watch, and they will like reply to certain questions in chat room and everything,
Oh, that's
so people
cool.
can learn from them. Not just what I'd be saying, which most of the time, let's be honest, pretty right. But
honk honk.
that's it. You know, that's all my experience so far. I hope I get to meet you two at an offline event sometime soon.
I will really want to go to one. I'm gonna go to one. That's my goal. It
Let's
will
save
probably
up
be-
some money and let's go, and then let's save up some money
if
for
they let me off
the
of work.
across the pond people in the admin group to get on over here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll work something out. I'm gonna go to one of these days. I swear it.
There you go.
Well,
That's the spirit.
thank you
Well-
so much for sitting down and talking with us. We really
Please,
appreciate
thank you.
it, and I think you gave a lot of really good information. And I'm super stoked that you actually accepted our offer of
Yes.
to hang out with us.
It's all my pleasure.
Amazing.
I still get
it's-
excited when people are like, "Yeah, I'll do it." And I'm like, "What?
Yeah.
That's really cool."
So just for everyone to remember, we are still the largest Rainbow Six Siege gaming community on Facebook, and the
Yay.
best as well. And we're the only one that gets to do stuff like this. So
Mm-hmm.
you know, everybody in the community makes us what we are. So we appreciate everybody who's here watching, and people that are going to be watching this non-live later tomorrow, because where I'm at, it is 3 a.m. and I got to be up in 4 hours. So
It's we do seriously appreciate the whole community, and thank you so much for being a part of this community and just allowing us to do these interviews with people. If you have any questions, please make sure to message the page. The page is
Yep.
linked in this video as well. Message the page. Us admins do answer those directly. Keep posting your videos. Keep posting your questions. We do listen to all of those. Any recommendations you have, let us know. And yeah, thank you for watching. Thank you very much. Have a good one, guys.
all right, everybody, have a
Bye.
good night. Let's
Bye.
do this.